Willie, mercy, baby. This is Shaska Willie. You're listening to Broken Kayfabe with Frankie Seabreeze and Ariel Bologna and Cheese Sandwich. They're like Coca-Cola. They're all over, baby, on whatever network that you find it on, baby. Welcome to Broken Kayfabe, the unofficial after show of Breaking Kayfabe with Baldrin and Barry. Ariel, we are on the heels of an amazing conversation with Michael Herrick last night.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was my first interview type of conversation I've had with a brother shipper for this podcast. Usually I would just, record the intro and the outro and not be conscious or available to have the conversations with the brother shippers. So this first one with Michael Herrick was a lot of fun. We discussed a lot of things. Time flew by quickly for those 2 hours. I hope to do it again someday.
Yeah, I hope you can too, man. That was a lot of fun, and it was interesting having three of us on.
Yeah.
And you got to talk to your old buddy, Michael Herrick.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Talk about beards, talked about the restaurant business, my short stint in the movie business, all those things.
Well, that's coming up next week. And this week we've got Kevin Carter. Mm-hmm. Before we get to that, I thought that we'll sort of make this intro and outro here short and sweet to the point.
All right.
And like usual, we didn't talk about what we were going to talk about. But, this week was a passing of someone that I worked with in the wrestling business. His name was Buck Blevins. He wrestled under the name of Bad Boy Buck. And he was a midget. And I worked probably, I don't know, a half dozen shows with him, maybe more. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I saw, actually, while I was away on vacation this weekend, a friend of mine sent me the link where he had passed. And it was, pretty sad. He had high blood pressure, and he was... he wasn't a dwarf. He was a midget. I don't know the polite way to say it. Short person, little person. But he had the really short arms, the short legs, the normal torso. Mm-hmm. And, it sort of made me think, one happy memory that I have was we were doing a battle royal one time, and I was supposed to win. And he asked me to put him over. And I said, yeah, of course. And so I put him over, but and then people were like, why would you do that? Why would you let a midget why would you put the midget over in a battle royal? And I just thought it was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And I also I knew he had been dealt a rough hand.
Yeah.
Right. So, and his sort of character was kind of funny. It was he sort of acted like Taz. He would come out with a black towel over his head.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is the late 90s.
Yeah, nice.
But one thing that stuck out to me was a couple years ago on another podcast, obviously not this one, there was a historian of sorts that was telling their stories, and this person also had a podcast at one time. I'm not sure if they still do or not. And I had seen him work on Buck shows. So Buck and his dad promoted shows up near their home, had a smaller wrestling ring. It was, where it wasn't 4 feet off the ground or whatever. It was only a couple of feet where it was easier to get for Buck to get up in. And so they would do the shows at this building and have, 50, 60 people there. And this guy, Buck, would always book, and not a great looking worker. I would say was an average worker, not in great shape. He wasn't a body guy by any means. He was fat. I'll just call it like I said. But anyway, he was referring to Buck. He didn't call Buck by name. I knew who he was talking about as a midget mark, and was telling some stories about Buck disparagingly, and it really pissed me off to hear it, right? Because here Buck was booking this guy, giving him money, and try to run shows and live his dreams, and then this guy 20 years later is shitting on him. And the other thing that pissed me off about it was that this guy is a big quote unquote Bible thumping Christian. And it's just like, that's the last thing that I really expect a Christian to be doing, is shitting on someone and talking down to someone because they're a quote unquote midget mark. So I lost all respect for that guy. I won't support anything he does. So if you're the guy who referred to Buck as a midget mark, fuck you. That's coming from Frankie. Have some class. And if you're going to, put your faith out there and say you're a Christian and you follow Christ, then follow Christ. Don't be an asshole and talk down to people like you're better than them, because you're not.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was interested to see that Greg Grog, who I met at the Fan Fest back in November, had worked shows with Buck, and he posted something very fond of Buck. And I commented, and so that was really, really good to see. And so we had that moment there where we shared that. And I'm sure we'll tell some Buck stories next time that I see Count Grog.
That would be cool. Yeah. I haven't heard of him. Well, he primarily. How long did he work for?
I'm not sure, but he was mainly over on the East Coast. He was one of the doinks. And remember when Doink had the Dink and Wink? He was one of those.
Oh, really? Okay, that was cool.
Yeah, but I mean, how far can a midget's career really go, right?
Yeah, true. Unless you're in Mexico, then you can be a superstar. But
then you see those guys getting drop kicked out of the ring. You see
exactly, and they're flying.
Yeah. Well, and Buck wasn't one of those. Buck was, 3 feet tall, but 150 pounds. So.
So how did he throw you over the ring over the top rope of a battle royal, or did you just how did he win it?
He just grabbed me by my hair and threw me, and I ran and jumped over.
Nice.
Well, really, how was I going to get him over without hurting him?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, there was no, stunning way of it, and he wanted to go over it. I mean, bless his heart. I put him over.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, how often does a little person win a battle royal anyway, unless it's with other little people?
Right.
So you made his day. You made his entire week by doing that for him. Yeah. So that's good on you.
Yeah. I have my moments, but. There's another part of the story that I think about is that he died and he had been battling high blood pressure, was the only thing that they said, right? Gosh, man, I hope people don't take this the wrong way, but men who are married or with partners live longer than single men. That's a fact. And the reason is because you have someone else that's your partner that says, hey, you have to take care of yourself. And so, when I hear that, because I also have high blood pressure, that could have been me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I didn't have Jana to say, hey, look, I need you to take care of yourself because of, I want you to be around in 30 years, then, that could have been me. It could have been me dying alone in my sleep of, hypertension.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not saying you. It's to everybody, to their own. I'm thankful that I settled down, but I'm thankful that I settled down with Jana and no other, person. So.
Yeah, that's very important. A lot of times, us single guys or single people would not really look after ourselves until we have somebody else caring for us, like a significant other that's also watching our back. Especially if children are involved, you want to be there for your kids when you want to see them grow up and everything.
Yeah. So guys out there, take care of yourself. Go get your yearly visits to the doctor, and if you're over 45, get your colonoscopies. Take care of yourself. Take your medicine like your doctor says to.
Yeah.
And so you don't run into problems a little later.
Exactly. And the way that us brother shippers eat, based on the food I've seen on on the Facebook page, we really need to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So speaking of food, I wanted to ask you: is there any? Do you have any pet peeves with food?
Yeah, I have a couple. The biggest one is the same thing that Jeff and Barry talked about with the spicy foods, where it's just some people just like the heat and not have any of the flavor along with it. Whatever rush they get from it or whatever, I just don't understand it. I don't like eating foods like that are too hot, that I can't enjoy, and it just doesn't taste good, or just heat. I don't like that. Let's see. Another pet peeve regarding food is I can't really think right now. Do you have one right now while I start?
Yeah, of course. Okay. Of course. So I'll tell you my spicy food story, and then maybe we'll go to our interview or conversation with Kevin Carter, and then we'll come back and wrap it up with another pet peeve. But this happened to me with the spicy foods. You go into like the Thai food or Indian food. Sometimes they'll say, "How spicy do you want it?" Scale of 1 to 5, right? Well, there was a Thai restaurant in my old hometown of Wilmington, North Carolina, that they did 1 to 10 instead of 1 to 5. And so my friend Damo and I had went to eat at another place. Well, I'd gotten confused. I thought this was the 1 through 10 place. And so when the lady says, "How spicy do you want your food?" I said 10. Ooh. And she said, "Really? You want a 10? And I said, "Yeah, a 10. So they come back, and I start eating, and I'm like, "Damn, this is spicy as hell." And I look over at the toward where the kitchen is, and there's 2 cooks laying up there watching me eat this shit. And then she said, "Are you sure that's not too hot for you?" I said, "No, it's a little hotter than I expected, but that's fine." And I said, "Your scale is 1 to 5, right? I mean 1 to 10, right?" She goes, No. We only go up to 5, and you ordered a 10, so you got double the hottest that we do.
That is insane.
And I said, "Oh, that's where I screwed up." So it was just funny, and I ate it and dealt with it, but it was pretty funny that was the case.
That is crazy. Wow. Do you like spicy foods, or I mean?
I do, but I don't like it. I don't like it where it's so spicy you can't taste the flavor. You have to have the spiciness with the flavor. So the Indian food, when we get it here, Jenna gets mild, I get medium. My favorite wings when I used to eat Buffalo Wild Wings were hot barbecue. So I like hot with the flavor. I don't like hot just for the sake of burning.
Yeah.
And speaking of burning and being on fire, we're going to go to our conversation with Kevin Carter. Kevin freaking Carter. How's it going?
Good, Frankie. How are you doing, man?
Good. So, Kevin, I don't know a whole lot about you, but I do know we're in a couple of the same wrestling groups. and I just saw you post whatever you posted the other day, and I chimed in with, "Hey, let's talk on Skype and do a recording."
All right. Yeah. I mentioned I had bounced in a strip club for a couple of years, and you seem like you might have been interested in a story or two of those.
Well, I used to be a dancer in one of those clubs, so let's just back up, Kevin.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute, man. I'll have to eliminate all the dumb stripper stories. Then give me a minute. A lot of those. God, a lot of those.
So Kevin, what town are you in southwestern Virginia?
I'm originally from Bristol. I have just very recently moved to Kingsport, Tennessee. It's about 10 miles from there. Most people know Bristol because of the racetrack.
Yep. So are you Kingsport or 10 miles from Kingsport?
I'm 10 miles from Bristol in Kingsport. I have just moved residences.
I've got you. I did some work in Kingsport once. That was about 1999-ish.
Right. Yeah, it's not the biggest town in the world.
Yeah, in Johnson City.
Right. Yeah.
I worked in one town one night and the other town the other night. I won't tell that story just yet, but it's a wrestling related story, and it is a doozy. It's probably my best story ever.
Oh, great. Oh, welcome to Kingsport.
Well, didn't I see you were from Abingdon, Virginia?
I was born in Abingdon, Virginia, yeah, and I've lived there, but recently Bristol and then Kingsport.
So why did you sell out Virginia and move to Tennessee?
2 words, state taxes.
Oh, there's no state taxes in Tennessee?
No, sir.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm in Florida. Also no state taxes.
Right. It's great, isn't it?
But no, let me tell you why it's not great, Kevin.
Okay.
Well, my homeowner, my property taxes are about 5 times the millage of what it is in North Carolina.
You're paying for the weather.
Well, yeah, I also live on the beach, so
right.
I'm also paying for that. But my property taxes are 5 times the millage. Not it's right. Not like so. My house here in Florida is worth more than the house in North Carolina, but it's astronomical. Here, I'll just throw out a couple of numbers. Our property taxes per year is about $4,000.
Wow.
In North Carolina, our property taxes were like $850.
Right.
So, and my house here is maybe 1.5 times more expensive than the house in North Carolina. So, those numbers in theory should be 1.5 times different, right? But right. It's not. I mean, it's 4 times different. And right. also, besides the property tax, the property insurance, and a lot of places, insurance companies are not insuring in Florida anymore because we get crazy weather.
Right.
So that's also about 5 times more expensive. And I'm not counting flood, but just the property insurance, 5 times more expensive here than in North Carolina. But yeah, we have no state income tax, but we do have outrageous property taxes in comparison to other states, and we do have outrageous insurance based on Florida's a hellhole. I'll just say that.
A lot of Florida man stuff too, right?
Brother, let me tell you, every male in Florida is Florida man. There is a story somewhere that each of them have. I did not know. So I used to live in Tennessee.
I
lived in Clarksville.
All right.
But I think, and I was in the military, but I think because, like I came from North Carolina, that I paid North Carolina taxes.
You would have. Yes.
Somebody should have smartened my ass up and let me pay Tennessee taxes when I wouldn't have paid any state income tax.
Right. But now, what rank were you when you were at Clarksville? That's Fort Campbell, right?
Fort Campbell, that's right.
Yeah,
The 101st Airborne.
Right. I was at Bragg, Polk. I was part of Uncle Sam's Travel Club myself for 8 years.
Well, holy shit. Well, let's go back to Fort Polk, man. What a mosquito-infested place that is. I mean, I spent a little time up at North Fort.
Right. Yeah. I actually worked in the box, if you know what I'm talking about, down at JRTC, or the training center, and I was Op 4 for a long time. I was the bad guy. Which is fun. That just gives you an excuse to mess with people.
Well, here's a little story. A guy in my unit almost got kicked out of the military because he had a choice to make. Either hump it out with a captured Op 4 or shoot him. And guess what he did?
I'm figuring they threw hands.
No, he shot him. And they said, you cannot, that is not an option. You cannot shoot a prisoner of war just because you don't have room on the helicopter for him.
Right.
So yeah, that's true. That happened at Fort Polk, and oh man, good memories there. So we went there every year, of course.
Right. And you were in what years?
1992. I went in July 31st, 1992, and I got out February the 24th, 1997.
We were in about the same time. I was 89 to 97.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. What was your MLS?
11 Bravo, man.
Yes, sir. Why is the sky blue?
Tell me why. Because the infantry blue?
Yeah, because God loves the infantry.
Okay, yeah. So, you know one thing, and I have a picture somewhere of this while we were there, out in the field at Fort Polk, doing the JRTC stuff. Right. I have a picture of the Anarchy sign in smoke in the sky.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So my whole life, I've always taken a bunch of pictures because my mother took pictures.
Right. So, I've never been a picture taker, so I have very few pictures from anything. And I was my mother's least favorite child, so I was always the one taking the picture when we did family pictures. So I'm not in any of those either.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we've just never been a picture person. That's cool though.
Yeah. So I don't know how they did it, what it was, but you can clearly see it is a huge A in the sky. And how about those wild horses?
That's cool too, isn't it? That's almost as cool as the wild pigs that you run up on.
Well, you'd set up, you'd be all tactical, and you're fighting positions and, digging foxholes and hasty fight positions and all that stuff. And hey, it's a serious thing. All of a sudden, these wild horses come through. You're like, come on.
Well, and then everybody becomes a 3-year-old too.
Right? Yeah.
It's 11 Bravos, but I mean, we're basically mean 6-year-olds anyway. But then everybody completely loses anything, and let's go play with the horses.
Yeah. We were in Panama in '93. And my first sergeant was this old guy, and I say old. Actually, he's probably not much older than
our age now.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and he had been in Vietnam, broke his back, got out, went back in, and he actually built this nightclub in Clarksville, Tennessee, where Tony Botts is from. But I digress. And so we were in Panama, did this big long tactical thing there in JOTC. And got up on this hill, and they gave us a few minutes. Hey, get cleaned up, blah blah blah, hygiene, hydrate, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. And there were these beautiful, there's these beautiful birds, toucans, macaws, all in the trees. He pulls out this nice ass camera and starts taking pictures of it. The company commander said, "First Sergeant, we need to go back to being tactical here." And the first sergeant said, "Yeah, we'll go back to being tactical when I get a picture of this damn bird."
Right. Yeah. The officers just think they run stuff. The those old NCOs are the people that are actually in charge.
You're right. And the first sergeant is just let them think that they're in charge.
But they are in charge. Well, I mean, the only person they got to listen to is Sergeant Major. And then nobody gives a Sergeant Major any issue.
That's the truth.
Yeah, you don't want to have to visit him.
So you were, you said Bragg, then Polk, and where else?
I was Bragg, Polk, Hood, and then Lewis, and then finished up in Germany.
I was about to say the only thing that you're not getting there was overseas.
Right, yeah, I did Germany, and the only reason I went to Germany, I was trying to get back to Bragg. If I had got back to Bragg, I would have been one of those old guys that bought a house and all that. I mean, that's home.
Hang on just a second. My dog's all whining here. 1 second. Sorry about that. My dog is 12 years old and about blind, and he's also what's the word? He's got the separation anxiety from me. So,
oh Lord, that's fine. My dog's out of here. They're back through there with the wife.
Yeah, so I let him out, and I have to let him back in a minute. But so I set up the military in my 10th grade year. So it'd been 1990, and right. It was really stupid on my part. But I signed up, and the recruiter. We picked out NBC as my MOS. I can't remember what it was. Right. I go down to the recruiter center. They say, and the only thing is, I just wanted to go to overseas. I just wanted to go to Germany.
Right.
Right. That's the only thing I wanted. I get down there, and this recruiter talks me out of that, signs me up for 11 Bravo with the Ranger option.
Right.
And I was only going to do 2 years in, and he gets me signed 4 years, 6 months, and 24 days. And I go to airborne school, pop my knee out, have to be recycled through. So they cancel me going to the Ranger battalion, but I got to finish airborne school, and then I got sent to Fort Campbell.
Nice. Well, you know what a recruiter and a guy in a white van have in common, right?
No, what's that?
I screwed it up. It's actually what a recruiter and a guy in a white van. What's the difference? Skip it. Let me put this down. That's a little much.
Fort Bragg. Now that's not far from where I lived. Wilmington, North Carolina is where Jan and I moved from.
I fished on the Cape Fear River several times.
Yep. So the house we bought is in Monkey Junction, if you know that term.
I don't.
Monkey Junction is just up 421, coming from Curry Beach, Carolina Beach.
Okay, yeah, I know the area.
It's part of Wilmington, but the section of town, it's kind of where College Road meets Carolina Beach Road.
Okay, I know that area fairly well.
Yeah, and so not far from where the zoo is.
Right.
So that's where the house we just bought, and our plan is to move back there.
So you're moving back to North Carolina
after our daughter graduates high school.
Right. Yeah, that's smart. You can't move them kids around too much.
No. So our youngest graduates in 5 years, and Florida. So the county that we live in here has about 1 million people.
Jesus.
Yeah, and so it goes, Palm Harbor, Tarpon Springs, Clearwater, all the way down to like Gulfport, Pasadena. I mean, it's a pretty large, and we live in Raiden Beach. But then you also have Seminole, Largo, but it's just a big ass county full of a ton of people, and just more and more and more and more people moving here all the time. And the governor thinks that's great, but actually it's not, because you can't afford single families can't afford houses.
Right, exactly.
Our kid's dad was looking for a house, and he bought this house, which was a 3-1 and about 1,100 square feet, cinder block house for $200,000.
Jesus, that's 60 grand here.
Right? Yeah.
Depending on how close your nearest neighbors are.
Right, freaking next door. And actually, it's kind of crazy. Let me let my dog in. I'll tell you about it.
Right.
All right. So this house, it's not in a great neighborhood. First of all. Second of all, so you've got the road. There's no parking on the street, right? And then you've got like a strip of grass that's about 5 feet wide from the road toward the people's houses. Then you have the sidewalk. And then you have about 10 feet from the sidewalk to the actual house. And so the city or the county or whomever owns from the sidewalk all the way down to the road. Jeez. But the homeowners have to keep it mowed.
Of course.
And then you got people who walk down the sidewalk. They can look in your house because, they're ground level, built on a slab. And they're 10 feet from your house. So if you have your blinds open, they can see right in the house. I mean, so it's really crazy, but that's the market.
We were talking, my wife's a nurse, but she works from home. And we were thinking about maybe once she retires, moving to Florida, but I don't think we will.
Man, I'm telling you,
right here.
Yeah. I love Tennessee. I especially love over there in the Smoky Mountains.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
So when I was in high school, I grew up in Mount Airy, which is just right across the mountain there. That's Mayberry, right? Right. Yep. And I got out. I had a Jeep. I had an 81 CJ7. And I drove out somehow, and I ended up on 58. And I saw a sign that was like, I went past Damascus, Virginia.
Okay.
And I saw a sign that was like, Bristol, 36 miles. Something.
You've come a long way, yeah.
Yeah. And I
on 58.
Right. And but it was a beautiful drive, 2-lane road.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's very beautiful. It's a little curvy, but it's pretty.
Yeah.
That's the one thing we have here. We got a lot of places to look at. But you still with me? I dropped my phone. Okay, I'm sorry I dropped my phone.
No, we're good.
All right. I love this area is awesome. Like I said, I could have went. Well, when I came out of the military, I lived in Charlotte forever. That's where the club was at. We won't name it because I think it's probably still in business, but and I worked there 2 years, and I just got homesick and came home, and I haven't left since. I mean, just vacations. But I'll live here till I'm done.
Let me throw this name out there to you.
Okay.
Slim. Name anything to you?
That was my granddad's nickname. I mean, I know.
Okay.
Hundreds of them probably.
So there was a famous strip club owner in Charlotte, and his name was Slim.
Slim. No. This. This guy's definitely wasn't. English wasn't his first language, we'll say.
Okay. So it wasn't Jerry either.
No, it wasn't Jerry. Now, I know Jerry though. I know exactly who you're talking
about. And Jerry
Jr.?
Jr.?
Yeah, I know both of them. Nice guys. I mean, for strip club owners. When you walk in the door of a strip club, everybody's job is to separate you from your money. That's the whole business. Everybody's on the grift. Do you understand that term?
Yeah.
Everybody's hustling. That's the bouncers, the bartenders, the DJ, the girls, whoever. Their whole purpose in life is to take your last dollar. That's why I don't understand why I was getting mad. My husband wants to go to a strip club, or the whole my husband or my fiance wants to have his bachelor party at a strip club. I mean, it's, trust me, very little is going to go on there unless he's willing to pay for it.
Oh, I see. I get what you're saying now.
Yeah, I mean, he's less likely to fool around on you at a strip club than he is at Walmart.
Well, interesting. I didn't know this, but maybe you could say at the club that you worked at. But I know that Pure Gold in Wilmington, it would show up as Wilmington Golf and Travel instead of Pure Gold. Right. Did your club have something like that?
No. My club was pretty. It wasn't the nicest club in Charlotte. I'll go ahead and say it's the Crazy Horse, and I'm pretty sure it's still in business. I mean, it was a decent. Again, these are all qualified words. It was a strip club, but I mean,
so Jerry owned the Crazy Horse in Wilmington too,
right? Yep, he sure did. But this Crazy Horse was owned by I can't remember. I can't say his name. I am way too hick for that. He was a Indian actually. He was an Indian and a devout Buddhist.
Wow.
Believe it or not, yeah.
So I didn't know that Crazy Horses were independently owned and operated. Like, you can see the sign at some McDonald's.
Yeah. I believe it's a more or less a franchise, because I know there's one in Wilmington, I know there's one in Charlotte, and I know there's one in Rock Hill. So those are still open.
So the one in Wilmington, I think closed down. I think the Pure Gold, they changed it to something else like, gosh, man, what was his name? What was the name? It was like, I don't know. It was something with a cat name in it. Like,
of course.
Yeah. Like Diamond Jaguar, something like that.
Something super corny, I'm sure.
Right.
But like I said, anybody going to a strip club expecting anything besides throwing their money away, I mean, it's a good time, but 9 times out of 10, you can forget it unless you're willing to pay for it. Now that's between them and you and the stripper.
Cheetah Premier is what they changed
Cheetah
Pure Gold to.
That's horrible. God.
Right?
I'm not even going to that. But yeah, it's like I said, it's everybody there is on the grift, and I don't understand where people are like, oh, it's so horrible. Or like women feel like their husband's cheating on because he went to the strip club. I'm telling you, that's the last thing that's going to happen.
Well, there are a few, we call them murder shows in the house here, like Forensic Files, right. Those kinds where something happened that was in relation to that.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, of course it happens, but it's going to cost you. And I just don't.
Well, me myself, I'll tell you, I'm not a fan of them. It just the setting is not for me. If I'm going to go out and have a good time,
I agree.
Call me a nerd, but I might want to play like some arcade games, right. Or I might want to go a place where we can sit and talk and hang out
and have a good drink. I mean, not something watered down or.
Right.
Ridiculously charged. I mean, it's ridiculously priced, and
so let's hear it. Let's hear a crazy story from Bouncing
Okay, well, all right. How about this one? My wife said I had to tell this one, so she's well aware. but we call it the $2 bill story. I worked a night shift, and Crazy Horse ran pretty much whatever time North Carolina shut off alcohol, from about 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 a.m. So I'm coming into work nights, and at that time I was the bouncer. I was steady. I showed up, and I was mostly upright most of the time.
How old were you?
Gosh, I would have been about 24, 25.
Okay.
Maybe a little older than that, maybe 26. I was young. I was still in my 20s. Anyway, so as soon as I get there, the DJ is like, "Hey, Jasmine crying." Okay, this is not how you want to start your day. So I go back there, and she's crying because some guy gave her counterfeit money. Okay, we really got to check that. I mean, you get a lot of trouble for uttering counterfeit. Let me see it. And she hands me a handful of $2 bills. And she's like, "I thought they were 20s because, if you fold the $2 bill just right and show it, they see the two, and they're not, most of them are not. I mean, there's no rocket surgeons here, okay?
Yep.
And so they take them as 20s. This girl had never heard of or seen a $2 bill.
Oh, Lord.
Well, I'm a nice guy, but remember, I told you, everybody in the strip club is on the grift, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, "Jasmine, give me all that counterfeit money you have, honey, and I will replace it with dollars." Are you there?
Yep.
You see what happened there, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
$2 bills are good. I mean, you can spend them anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm making $1 thing, and I think I ended up with 22 or 23.
Wow.
23 bucks to the good. Bless her heart,
Bless her heart.
Right. But she was but now, of course, she was one of those strippers. There's 3 kinds of strippers, right?
No. Please tell me.
One of them stripping to feed her kids. That's the story you get, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other one is stripping to put herself through college, right?
Yep.
And then the third one likes to take her clothes off because it's easy work and you make plenty of money. So one of those is honest. Jasmine was the one that was going to college. As long as she had worked there, she should have had her doctorate.
Well, there was a girl at the Pure Gold who, did you watch Eastbound and Down with Danny McBride?
I did. I love that show.
All right. Fine Dining.
Yep.
Fine Dining worked at the Pure Gold.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I figured a lot of those people were strippers from somewhere.
Yeah, she was a bookkeeper, I think. But she would always tell you, like that was her side hustle. She just does it for the money. Right. And she's like, but I have this other, just so you know, it was like, I'm better than all these other girls.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Right. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And she let them know that too.
Oh, I'm sure. And especially after she got in Eastbound and Down with the Fine Dining.
Yeah. Well, she was famous then.
So let me ask you this: in North Carolina, are there all dudes?
Okay, the Crazy Horse in Charlotte was not full nude. Right outside of Charlotte is a place called Rock Hill, and there was a Crazy Horse owned by the same guy, and it was full nude. So
that's in South Carolina for folks that don't know.
Right. So. I'm pretty sure that it's pasties only, pasties and G-string in North Carolina. But then you go down to Fort Bragg, and I don't know that they consider Fayetteville part of North Carolina.
Well, it is called Vietnam.
Vietnam for a reason. Well, there's a strip club there that the Airborne guys frequented. It's out of business now, but it's called the Flaming Mug. And every Thursday night, they had a contest that was called Dare to Bear.
Yep.
And you won by audience reaction, right? The more you showed, the more you're going to get applauded, blah, blah, blah. But what you won at the Flaming Mug was 2 pitchers of beer and a Flaming Mug T-shirt. It's amazing how far some people will go for 2 pitchers of beer and a T-shirt.
When Rockstar Energy Drink came out, so let's call that 2007, 8, 9.
Right.
There was a place in Wilmington that was called the Firehouse, and that did the same thing, Dare to be Bear. And that place was crazy when they had that going on.
Oh, yeah. And you can imagine guys who have just turned 21 who could, Fort Bragg's on 24-hour deployment. You can be anywhere in the world in 24 hours. That's just life, So you can imagine how far those guys will push things. If you see what I'm saying?
Yep. Well, so in Fort Campbell, the place was called Cat West.
I got a question for you real quick.
Yeah.
I've always heard this, and I don't know if it's a Army rumor. Is there a strip club outside Fort Campbell that used to be a double wide trailer?
I've
always heard this. And then, of course, that's where the one-legged stripper supposedly works.
It's
never at Campbell. I've asked several people. They all kind of give me that blank look, but I have heard that throughout the Army.
Well, I would tell you another story that is along those same lines, but a different place. But I can't.
Okay.
My son's here. So we'll have to.
Am I coming through the speakers?
No. But
okay.
If I said it, he's a room over. My 15-year-old son, so he can't hear me talk about that. But I do have a story along those same lines of a different town that, yes, I know for a fact did exist.
Okay, all right. I always wondered that.
I don't know of any around there, and there was a guy in my unit who so I was in Bravo 2nd and 327th at Fort Campbell.
Right.
A guy that was in my unit who was obsessed with them, and I remember, so I was probably E3 or E4 when he got into the unit. Those younger guys, you always try and incorporate them and do things. Well, he didn't want to do the stuff that I did. He just wanted to go and sit, and he would, and those guys, right? These guys that go and they sit the stage and they look up with for
hours.
And yes. And you're like, dude, what are you looking at?
Right. Yeah.
It's like the 1,000-yard stare, but he's looking something that's 2 feet in front of him.
Right. Yeah.
So I never got it. I never connected with that guy. And we actually, got into sort of a fight one time, without throwing punches.
Right.
I just out wrestled him, but it was pretty funny of the situation, because if you got in a fight, you could get in trouble. This was the early 90s.
Oh yeah, oh for sure. Yeah. I mean, if anybody told, now I'll guarantee you at your barracks and some other barracks, I know it happened at mine. 2 dudes just couldn't get along, and everybody would go out back, and nobody said nothing. I mean, somebody fought, somebody won, somebody lost, and we all called it a day. And next day, everybody's cool. And Joe Snuffy fell last night trying to go to the bathroom and cut his eye. I mean,
Oh yeah. There was definitely those.
Well, I mean, you can't put 68 to 70 super aggressive guys in the same building and not expect something to happen.
Oh man, my wife and I, we watch Naked and Afraid.
Right.
And every time there's a guy who was in the military there, and then of course he's always paired up with some female, right?
Yeah, and usually it's a super hippie.
Yes.
Hippie.
Yes. Me and my wife know exactly what's going to happen. This guy's going to go in there and try and take charge, and not be able to like do the bare necessities like make fire or hunt, and then this girl is going to end up having to provide for both of them, and then he's going to feel emasculated. We see it time and time again, but that's the show that we watch when we're ready to go to bed and whatever.
That's a good show. Well, excuse the stutter, but yeah, I like that show. It happens, and they plan it that way. But I don't understand how somebody could go to that show and not at least have got in his backyard and made fire a couple 100 times. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man! Oh my gosh! Yes, we say it every time. It's like, how can you not know what you're doing by the time that you get there?
Right, and you signed up for it. It's not like they come and got you.
You weren't drafted, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. You had all the time in the world to know what you were doing.
The guy that we just had that was from Louisiana, and everybody talks this big game. Oh, I can make the fire. Yeah. I can do the hunting. And this guy was horrible. And the girl was a former Marine living in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And this lady did everything. It looked like she was a mother of 4. And like the story there was that she was grieving. Her mother had died 2 years prior, and she hadn't like finished that whole grieving process.
Right.
And so here she was grieving, and she would see these hummingbirds, and he'd be like, let's kill them. And she'd be like, oh, no. It reminds me of my mother. I would never kill and eat a hummingbird. Right. You know, but then she would do the providing, making the shelter and using the ash to get rid of the insects. And it's just like, here this guy is. And she even said at one point, she's like, he talked like he could do all these things. He hasn't done anything.
Right. I'm sick of carrying him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awful. But yeah, like I said, I mean, why would you volunteer to go on something that you didn't know what the hell you were doing?
There's no way, no way, even in my younger days, that I would do that.
I wouldn't go unprepared, for sure. When I first moved back up here from Charlotte, about 75% of what I put on the table was either raised it or killed it.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's easy here. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's easy here, and then I have friends in other places, so we go hunt hogs or whatever.
Well, when you got the guns and you are,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's not surviving.
Yes,
that's 100% not survival. I mean, you know, that's just enjoying hunt. I mean, and I do like to hunt. I do like to fish and all that stuff. So, and like I said, but yeah, the first couple of years I was home, I put about 75% of the food on the table, either from a garden or hunted and killed. That was before I got married the first time and had a kid.
So what kind of animals are we talking about here?
Okay, here comes the hillbilly, right? Deer, of course, squirrel, rabbit, fish. There's a river that runs through the tail end of Bristol from it's the North Fork of the Holston. It runs from a place called Saltville all the way down. I don't even know how far, plumb to Kingsport, probably 75, 80 miles of just, and it used to be fine fishing, and we'd get frogs, do frog legs, the whole 9 yards. Everything y'all think us hillbillies eat, we probably do, or I did.
No. It's not you hillbillies, it's us hillbillies, because I grew up in the back freaking woods of Mount Airy, North Carolina. Right. We would go out and hunt the rabbit, come back, bring it to grandma, who would kill it, and who would skin it and then cook that junk, and we would eat that rabbit right there at the table.
That's good eating now. Don't call it junk.
Yeah, well, I say junk because we're going out and killing in the woods of I think a rabbit is technically a rodent, but I mean junk as in that animal, and we would eat it. The same with suckerfish. We would do it at my grandma's house. We didn't hunt any deer hunt, but even though we did do deer hunting, which is a lot more complicated, the skin and gut.
Oh yeah.
And cut up. But of course, back then, they had places you could drop it off, and they would do all that for you.
For sure. But now we always just did our own. But right before I went in the Army, I'm 17, 18. I spent 2 winters running a fox trap line. As a matter of fact, how's that for a first job?
Well, what is that?
Trapping fox for its fur and selling the fur.
Well, how would you trap them?
With a spring trap. This is going to get PETA. They're going to love us for this, but
they're not going. They're not going to listen, brother. We only get like 50 downloads, and trust me, Pete ain't listening to any of the crap we doing.
All right, good. But with a spring trap, and then you put them down and take them home and skin them. But that being said, a buddy of mine was like, "Why don't you get a job?" He was working at McDonald's or whatever and making $5 an hour. And I was making roughly 5 times what he was walking in the woods. I'm like, I can't afford to get your job.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, fur used to be a big deal. And especially around here, we've got a lot of red fox and gray fox. And the market just died out when they put an embargo. It all went to Russia, and let's don't get political here, but that's where it all went. And then they put an embargo on it in the early 90s, and then hides you were getting $40 for, now you get 2.
Really?
Yeah, it just killed the market.
What do you mean they sent to Russia?
They would send them to Russia, and that you saw the big Russian hats. The big fur hats. If you watch MMA, the one that the Khabib wore, those hats and all those hats used to be, all those were made with American fur.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. There was more of it came from America than did Russia.
Wow.
And then some, of course, America and Russia argued, whatever, and that was one of the things they stopped allowing to be imported or exported to Russia. And they killed the market. So then I had to go get a job. So I went in the military.
Wow. So yeah, you go from killing foxes to killing humans.
Yeah.
I thought the other day some of the dumb stuff that we used to say is, what was your MS? Was it 11 Bravo?
11 Bravo, yes, sir.
Have you ever heard this one? It's because of me you even have a job.
Oh yeah, I've heard that one. My favorite line in the military were the supply guys. You know what I'm talking about? The guys who work in supply.
Yeah.
They're paper pushers. I mean, right. Great guys to be on the good side of, but a lot of them would say bullets don't fly without supply. I'm like, come on, man. Please. you and me are not the same.
Right, yeah.
I just cuddled with my best friend in 28-degree weather, covered by a poncho liner, and tried not to freeze to death. What did you do today?
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you. So I was in Korea for a year.
Oh Jesus, yeah. That's why I went to Germany. My choices were to go to Germany or to Camp Casey in which they call Cell Block C in Korea.
Yeah, and TDC. Yeah, Tondushan. Oh man. So I flew into Seoul and Yongsan, and I, as soon as I landed, I said I want to be here, and so we were at Yongsan, and they said, "Oh well, you're going to go to Camp Casey." I was like, "Crap," because Youngstown's right in Seoul. So I go to Camp Casey, smaller, but there's right outside the gate. What's that?
Which is not in Seoul.
No. So there's a little town there that was really cool. There were some bars and shops and I mean really really cool shopping areas. I remember going to like a what I now know to be a wet market where they just sold all kinds of stuff, but they would also sell live animals and kill it there for you.
Right.
And then while I was there, I was like, gosh, please just let me get stationed at Camp Casey, please. And then, nope. Where do I go? Camp Greaves, north of the MGM River, right across from North Korea. We could see the flag, hear the propaganda.
Right on the DMZ.
Right on the DMZ. No females whatsoever, just 1,200 men. And we realized we were just a speed bump. If North Korea wanted to come through, they would wipe us out, and we would be the reason that we would be in World War III.
Right. One negligent discharge could possibly start World War III.
Oh, well.
And people don't realize that.
So in Thanksgiving 1995, we actually had people infiltrate Camp Greaves. And we shot one, and one got away. And no one heard a peep about it.
Really?
Not a peep. But if you go and you Google, you'll find it. And I was there and participated in that whole thing.
How wild is that? Yeah, I'd never heard of that.
I called my mother after Thanksgiving, and I went to church on that Thanksgiving because I said, this is crazy. Right? Because you don't sign up thinking you're going to be in war, and then when you are, and it's peacetime, this was before, right after Desert Storm, that 9 months that happened, and then this is way before. This is 5 years before, 6 years before 9/11. You're like, nothing's going to happen, right? You don't think anybody's going to try and blow anything up, but yes, it happened.
Oh, for sure.
And when I told my mom, it was just like she didn't believe it, and was like, what? And then, I mean, it was legitimately like insane to think about what happened.
Like I said, one diplomatic incident up there could start World War III. I mean, no joke. I mean, that's as real as it gets.
It's like Forrest Gump said. He said about Vietnam, but Korea is true. Korea is a whole nother country.
Yeah. I mean, it's a whole different world, though. I mean, they think differently. Does that make sense? That doesn't sound too terrible, does it? You might have to cut that.
No. Well,
absolutely not a racist. Okay.
I'm gonna tell you, most other countries think differently than we do.
Oh, for sure. But they do think. But at the end of the day, nobody wants to die. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, no matter what you believe, you don't want to die. But
so what I was getting at with all that around that way. So our supply guy in Korea. Well, this is kind of a funny story. So right before I got there, in Korea, there was a guy who had. This is a story that I was told. Peed. He was drunk and he peed on. So I was in Charlie. The Charlie nicknames of the Charlie Company is like Hard Rock Charlie.
Right.
So there was a rock that was there that was painted with Hard Rock Charlie.
Gotcha.
And it was on a hill with a retaining wall. It was about 9 or 10 feet tall. A guy allegedly peed on that rock and slipped and fell and broke his neck and died.
Oh, Jesus.
Right before I got there. So one of the things that I've done and I do, and if you're morbid, you can do it too, is go and just Google and find out people, soldiers who have died in Korea, and you will see all these names, ages, and causes of death, which the cause of death might be illness. And you'll see 24-year-old people dying of illness.
Illness, right. I think what gets most of the soldiers in Korea is soju, correct?
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that what kills? I mean, isn't that usually a contributor?
It does some damage.
It doesn't help.
Well, so soju, for those that don't know, or the unindoctrinated, is a Korean liquor that usually it's served in quote unquote kettles. A kettle could actually be a kettle, but it also could be the top of like a 1 or 2 liter bottle cut off. And then you pour some of the liquid out, and then you pour the soju in it, and you sit and you drink it with your buddies. And then, oh my gosh, man, one of the drunkest I've ever been in my entire life. I was, I can't remember who I was drinking with, but someone, and then we met these two Canadian guys who were teachers, and we were drinking with them. And I have a picture of those two guys. I think the guy that I was with was named Mark Blackwelder. And I'll tell you a funny story about him in a second. But I drank with those guys, and I said, oh my gosh, the room is spinning. I got up, I went out on the street, and I sat there with my feet in the gutter, my butt on the sidewalk, and I just sat there and just puked uncontrollably. People walking around me, and I puked uncontrollably, and I got out of being, and then we went on about our business, and I took it easy the rest of the night. Mark Blackwater, I found on Facebook a couple of years ago, and I said, oh my gosh, man, I have this picture of you. I've got to send it. And so I went through my pictures, and I found this picture of him naked with like a Korean decorative fan in front of him, and he's making the most hilarious facial expression, like a Jim Carrey like facial expression. And so I sent it to that guy. This is from like 1995, and I'm sure it made his day.
Oh, I'm sure, and he probably a lot of memories there too.
Yeah. Good times.
What was that? Oh yeah, you can definitely have some good times in the military.
Well, over in Korea, you also can have short times or long times.
Depending on how much you pay, right?
Exactly. I never partook in that, but I did have a friend, and I'm going to call him by name. He won't listen to this podcast, and it's a pretty common name, Bobby King. And he would come and tell us about the exploits, and I just did not get it. I just did not get it. And he would just tell of all these times and things that he went. And I would say, I just don't get it. I just don't get why you would pay for it. I mean, you're only over there a year. And I mean, if you went to Camp Casey, or if you went to Seoul and on an overnighter, which we didn't get many of them, you could play your cards right, and you wouldn't have to go and pay. Yeah.
But in Germany, they call prostitution's 100% legal, and they call that area the poof. You know why?
No.
You walk in and your money goes poof.
I thought you were gonna say no hair, no flare.
No, but that's what happens to your money. But it just goes poof. But yeah, and that's the European deal, where you walk down the street and they're standing in the windows, so you can window shop. Yeah.
Well, in Korea, you would go into a place. I think they call them kettle houses, and you would sit and have a drink, and you would see these 3 or 4 or 5 girls come in from like upstairs, and they would come and sit next to you, and how you doing, GI? Oh,
buy a drink.
Feeling good. Buy me drinky, GI.
Yep. That's the con everywhere in the world.
Well, and then you'd see them leave, and 5 minutes later they come down dressed differently and try and come and do it again. You're like, I just saw you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's the con everywhere.
It's like, oh, my drink's $4. My drink that you buy the girl was $10.
Yeah,
It's like, why is yours special?
That's a real expensive glass of water.
Yeah, buy me drinky.
Buy me drink. Yep. Everybody always. I don't understand it. All the civilians around, even in America, think the GIs have all sorts of money.
Gosh, I'm gonna tell you the
truth. I never had any money. It didn't seem like I had a lot of fun toys and stuff.
That's the poorest I've ever been in my entire life.
If they hadn't been feeding me, I would have starved to death.
Man, I thought about so my son and daughter, they have a cousin that was in the military, and so I hear my son and my daughter talking about going in the military, blah 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 blah, and I said absolutely not, and I was trying to think of what I was paid, and I think I remember a paycheck being like $300 every 2
15
weeks.
days. Yeah, every 15, the 15th and the 30th.
Right.
That's how the Army pays, is the 15th and the 30th.
So, I mean, this is E3 or E4 pay.
Right.
And I'm sure I had something coming out of that, either, something that they sucker you into auto draft.
Right. Probably a savings bond. They drive those pretty hard.
But so I had 313 that I would have to live on. So that's $600 and let's just say $650 a month.
Right.
That I would have. I mean, that's less than $10,000 a year.
Exactly. To possibly die for.
Well, if you died, you got the $200,000.
No,
you didn't get it. Your family did.
Your family did, yeah. But what I'm saying is, that's $650 a month, or to die for.
Yes.
I mean, and you're on duty 24/7, basically. I mean, they can come to your room, especially if you're single. They can come get you up at 2:00. Hey, man, we need somebody to pull this or pull CQ or pull guard duty or something.
Happened to me.
Somebody got a DUI. That was always fun.
Well,
somebody
I tell you what,
goes out and drinks, so they wake everybody up. And
hang on, just say I need to go. Speaking of drinks, I need to get a refill, and then I want you to tell what would happen in that case. I'm back. My dog here is he is on this weird eating thing where he does not eat all the time.
Right.
I have to mix like pumpkin or other stuff in there to get him to eat.
Right.
So he hasn't eaten, and I have to coax him to actually eat. So, and he's on his last leg. God bless him.
Right. Yeah, he sounds like he's a good dog, though. He's been around that long.
Well, he's put up with me. My joke is that he's the only person besides my wife that actually gets me, that understands me.
Right. Yeah, and he doesn't talk back much either. So.
Well, actually, he does, man. This dog is a whiny little bitch.
No.
And the problem is that my wife says she still doesn't speak Max, because he'll come to me and I could say, okay, he wants to go outside, he wants to party,
right.
he wants to eat, he wants
but
to.
But y'all been together 12 years. I mean,
No. Yeah. Me and the dog. Yeah. Yeah. Well, but I'm sort of stupid, and it takes me a long time to kind of figure out what people are saying, especially when people are like speaking in code or not saying things directly.
Right.
It takes a while. So it took me a good couple. It took a year for him to lick me.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of dog is he?
He's a Yorkie poo, but it took a year for him to lick me, and I even used peanut butter. I'm kidding on that part. But seriously, it did. It took him a year to lick me. Like, I mean, he and I, it took a while, but it took kind of forever for me to realize what he was wanting and what was going on with him, and to sort through it. And then I come here and it's like he's on his last leg. But I've said that, but he's been like this for a couple of years. Bless his heart. Can barely walk. So why don't you tell everyone what would happen when someone in the company would get a DUI?
Okay, a DUI or arrested or whatever. The first thing they do is when somebody gets arrested or DUI, whatever, they would call CQ, which is charge of quarters. That's the people who are supposed to be sort of babysitting the unit while everybody's gone. Those babysitters would then call your first sergeant, because that's who's got to sign you out, sign you out of jail. So first sergeant now this is a guy with probably 20 plus years in. They're all crusty as all get out. They're just hard dudes. Most 99% of them.
Hold on. There's not a person in the civilian world that would be equitable to a first sergeant.
No, you can't be that way and be in the civilian world. They would put you in jail. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, even like
you would be unhireable.
Well, like you go to a corporate world, you're dealing with like a captain or a major if you're in the corporate world.
Right.
I mean, this first sergeant is this old, crusty ass guy that you would find. What's the job that you think a first sergeant would do in the civilian world?
Oh man, some sort of like heavy duty union shop steward.
Yes,
machine shop or something like that. A first sergeant's the type of guy that no matter who's talking to him, won't even take the cigarette out of his mouth to tell somebody to kiss his ass.
That's the truth. 100%.
I've seen it happen. So anyway, so Top, that's their nickname for the first sergeant, Top. Top has to go get this person. He is not happy. And when the first sergeant's not happy, it's kind of like being married. You know, when your wife's not happy, she spreads that around. So everybody's got to pay because we all failed. Like, say it was you. We all failed Frankie and let Frankie drive home drunk. Mm-hmm. Somebody should have had his back. Of course, we're all drunk too. I mean, you know. But anyway, so everybody gets up and you form up and you get information and then you proceed to get your ass chewed for, 25 to 30 minutes, just till he feels a little better. No matter what time. I mean, this could be 3 a.m. And then everybody's going to pay for days. And then the poor sap who is felon in jail he's going to get punished, and he's probably going to catch what they call an Article 15, which is where they can take rank and up to a month's pay from a junior enlisted. And then give him 30 days extra duty and 30 days confinement. That means you can't leave your room, only for meals and work. And then after you get off work, you go do something the first sergeant wants you to do, be it cut grass with scissors, paint whitewash rocks. That's a big one. Clean graffiti off of a bridge, just whatever he can think of for 30 days. You pretty much belong to the first sergeant after hours.
That's true.
Yeah, it's not fun. And then we actually had a guy on his second DUI as they were getting ready to kick him out of the Army. He was not allowed to go anywhere by himself, even though he was on restriction. If he had to go to the bathroom, he had to go it happened to be me. I was his corporal. I was his team leader. So he would have to come get me to take him to the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
And stand outside the door. So I'm getting punished because he's an idiot. So he was real popular in my book. I'll say that. But yeah, he would have to bring somebody from his, a 2-man room to my room to get me to take him to the bathroom. God, I can't believe I lived that way. Just so I love the military. I would never do it again.
Me too. And I often contemplate whether I should have even went in.
I don't regret going in. I made a lot of good friends. I have one of the largest families ever. I've got a lot of brothers. I mean, there's 6 of us that we're all still good friends, and I hadn't emailed them in a while, so I need to get on that. But we were in Somalia together, and not a fun trip. Not a fun trip at all. That was just bad.
So that's where Black Hawk Down happened, right?
Yes, sir. It sure was.
So I came home to my mother's from on a leave from somewhere, and it was an 8-hour drive from Clarksville to my mom's. Right. And there was a documentary on the Black Hawk Down, the real life one. And there was a guy that I went to basic training with named Mark Good, who was very fit, a PT stud, very sweet guy. And he was describing what happened, and he had same unit as me, but ended up going to the Rangers, where I had the knee trouble, and describing what happened with that whole thing there.
Right. Yeah. It was a long day. It was a very long day, but I wasn't actually in Mosul there, but we were in Somalia, and we were what's the nice way to say it? We were clearing houses.
Yeah.
Basically, you see cops, they kick in the door, 6, 7 of them running in. That was my life for about 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. We kicked in doors, the whole 9 yards. Black bag people took them to wherever they were supposed to go. It was definitely interesting.
I had some guys. Let's see, where were we? Maybe it was Fort Campbell that had been to Somalia.
Yeah, it wasn't pleasant. I will tell you this: the crazy thing about Somalia, the beaches are beautiful. I mean, it's that white, powdery, almost desert sand. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's more like powdered sugar than it is sand.
Yep.
Are you with me?
Yep.
As long as you have your back to the ocean and you look left and you look right, it's beautiful. Then if you turn around 180 degrees and look out in the ocean looks and smells like cancer.
What is that?
Well, that's what set the whole Somali pirate deal off. This might be a little political, but anyway, it's a known deal. More advanced countries use that area of the ocean as a dumping ground for chemicals instead of trying to dispose of them correctly.
Oh, wow.
And Somalis are traditionally fishermen. And then there's just nothing left. They don't have a choice but to try to pirate something up to make anything.
Oh, man.
And then a bunch of warlords took over, and the warlords now control the food. So what do you do to feed your family? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
How far are you willing to go to feed your family? Well, most people are willing to go way damn farther than they think they are.
Right. Yeah. Well, hunger to do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, that might be a little political for this, but
I don't think so.
Okay. I just, but yeah, it's Somalia is a mess, and it will be a mess. If this earth stands another 1,000 years, it'll be a mess. There's no fixing it. It's the old Sam Kinison joke. What do you send them? Don't send them food. Send them a U-Haul.
My buddy said the exact same thing about Iraq when he was over there. Hang on just a second. Kevin, we've talked a lot about the military. We talked a little bit about strip club. I thought this was going to be 90% strip club. That's okay. We've saved stuff for the next go around. But before we wrap up,
I want to do another one. I mean, I don't know how well I did or anything, or how bad I sound on a recording.
Who gives a shit? You know, we got 50 people that listen to this, and as long as those 50 people are happy, I'm happy. I've enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, it's been very cool.
And the whole point of this whole thing is to get the brother shippers' voice out and have them heard and let them tell their stories, because I think the brother shippers are just as important and interesting as any wrestling legend or any of these other folks that have the podcast. Us guys are humans and awesome, and there's a lot of stories and fun stuff to be had. But tell me, where did you grow up watching wrestling?
Well, I grew up here, like I said, Bristol, Kingston, this area, and this is the old Fuller territory. This is the home of Ron Wright. Ron Wright was the king of Kingsport.
So what year were you born?
I was born in 71.
All right, you're 2 years older than me.
Right.
So what's funny was when I saw Kevin Carter, I immediately thought some young kid, right?
Right.
This is how my mind works.
Right. Well, my posts are pretty childish too, so that didn't help.
And then as I got to thinking about it, and you're like, "Oh yeah, my grandkids are coming over." I was like, "Damn, this dude is old."
Yeah.
But here's the thing: I'm 48.
Right.
So I also am old, and I could have grandkids, but I don't. But that's just how my brain is. My brain sees me as 20-something Frankie, right?
I'm about 25. My back doesn't hurt. My knees are great. Yeah, I have well, my wife loves this. Maybe you can put this in. But I have Schrodinger's back. Do you know what that is?
No, not a clue.
I don't have a diagnosis, therefore my back is fine.
Oh, okay.
Like Schrodinger's cat?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Schrodinger's back.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, my wife, the nurse, doesn't think so, but well, like I said, I'm an old Army vet, and pretty much breakfast every morning is caffeine, hate, and anti-inflammatories. I mean, you know.
Yeah. You know, those 600 milligram Motrins.
They're godsend.
Well, they don't have them in the civilian world.
Right.
So whenever, like,
they do have them. You just get your doctor to write a prescription. I'm looking at a bottle of 800s right now.
Yeah, well, so I remember getting prescribed 800 milligram Motrins in the military for my back or my knees or whatever it was.
Right.
So it's like
your civilian doctor to prescribe them. They'll give you 800 milligrams too.
Well, so my wife, and something's hurting, and she'll have these 200 milligram Motrins around. I'll say, take 4 of them some bitches. And she'll say, no, it says take 2 every 4 hours. I'm like, look, I was in the military. And, and you know what? Pain is weakness leaving the body.
Body for sure.
That's what they would tell us, right?
Right. But I got a lot of weakness trying to get out of this thing.
Yeah. Well, you take those 800 milligram Motrins, the pain and the weakness, both are gone.
Right. It's a miracle drug. Like I said, there's days I don't know that I would get out of bed without it. But I reach for it first thing in the morning and throw one down and lay here a few minutes, and then I'm still an early riser. I'm up 5:36. If I sleep till 6:30, it's late. My wife's sneaking in the room holding a mirror up.
So
see if it's life insurance time.
What time did you say you would wake up?
6:30 or 7. If I sleep till 7, it's late. Most time I'm 5:30.
All right. So you wake up 6:30. You got a cigarette and a cup of coffee in your hand by 6:35.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We'll call it a cigarette. How's I'm retired, Frankie. I got nowhere to go. I can kind of wake. I can kind of wake up and feel fine.
So, growing up over there where you did, tell me what's your earliest memory of watching wrestling on TV or going to see it live?
Oh, the earliest memory. Okay, I was 8. My little brother was 5. We were watching Mid Atlantic on WCYB Channel 5. That's how plain I remember this. Come on 1 o'clock Saturdays. My little brother, at 5 years old, he passed on us just a few years ago, but that we were super close. But he was a Wahoo McDaniel fan. You know, I mean, a 5-year-old kid, this guy in this huge headdress, this grumpy old man, right up your alley, right?
Yep.
Well, when that happened, that was when Wahoo got attacked. If you remember, Piper bought in Abdullah. Do you remember this angle at all?
Was it Georgia or Mid-Atlantic?
It might have been Georgia. It probably was Georgia now that you mention it. Oh, my memory's bad. Anyway, and Abdullah takes a fork out of his boot and proceeds to stab Wahoo. Well, what they did was they did actually exit out at times, but they switched from black and white, or from color to black and white.
Do you have? Hang on just a second. Hang on. Do you have? Look at your phone just a second.
Okay.
Let me see if you can see this.
Give me just a second.
Probably gone through about 4 or 5 different mattresses.
Plus size box.
Can you see that?
Yeah. This is it. Well, my little brother went into hysterics. I mean, it was so bad, my dad had to take him outside. And I will just never forget that. And, of course, he never lived that down either. I mean, as an older brother, you can't let him live that down. God, Wahoo was a big bastard.
You know, I have his book here that was just put out by his wife, and I think John Crowther was the other guy. And reading those stories of what people said about Wahoo. Oh, look at that. There's the fork.
Right. Yeah. And about this time, my little brother's screaming. I mean, screaming. I'll never forget that. Plus, we would come down to Kingsport. The Fullers would wrestle at Kingsport Civic Center. I really need to put
look at
yep, that's what they did. Yep, and which makes it 1,000 times worse because now you're imagining.
And look, he stabbed him with that fork.
Right, yeah, he's just working him over. But remember what I'm talking about now? You're not really seeing anything, so your mind's taking over. Now imagine being a 5-year-old and your hero's getting filleted on TV. It's probably not good for you. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
But we had but we would come to the Kingsport Civic Center. The Fullers wrestled at Kingsport Civic. I really need to get in there and take some pictures of that old place because there's been a lot of wrestling that took place in there. And it's still in the same shape. The ceiling is still yellow from all the smoke from back in the day. And are you with me?
Yeah,
from when people used to go and smoke. It's a very cool old building. But and we would come down here and that, like I said, as far as I know, that's one of the first places Kevin Sullivan wrestled at. I don't know if you've heard this story or not. That was my grandmother's favorite wrestler. And my grandmother and grandfather, they were front row, Kingsport Civic Center, and it's every third Saturday. That's the schedule they would hit Kingsport Civic Center at. And do you know Ron Wright? Are you familiar?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, Ron was beating poor Kevy Sullivan. That's what my grandmother called him. Up right in kind of to the right of my grandfather's foot. My grandmother's sitting on the left. My grandmother smoked Cool 100s. I'll never forget it. And she leaned over and put that cigarette out on Ron Wright's neck.
Oh man!
To get him, it was real to them. Are you with me?
Yep.
And so they didn't kick her out, but they kicked her off the front row. And her and my grandfather didn't speak for 2 weeks almost because he didn't leave his seat to go back there with her.
Wow.
He was a wrestling fan, you see.
Mm-hmm.
And then she finally got banned from the Kingsport Civic Center because not Ron, Rob, no, yeah, Rob Fuller, the younger, was they were a tag team, him and Jimmy Golden at the time, and it had been raining, so my grandmother bought an umbrella in, and he said something to her, and she went under the rope. I mean, that's all it was a yellow manila rope around the ring, and proceeded to swat his legs with that umbrella until the cops came and got her.
Wow.
Yeah, and she was no longer allowed. She's no longer allowed front row, Kingsport Civic Center. My grandfather still sat there until they stopped coming.
That's hilarious.
He would buy her a ticket, general admission, and him a front row.
Wow.
He would tell her, it's not my fault you got kicked out.
That is insane.
Right? And then there was it was the Fullers, or the Fuller and Golden against Sullivan, maybe Garvin, Ronnie Garvin, maybe. I don't remember that real well. I was really young. I was 6 or 7, maybe a little younger than that. And Sullivan and Golden fought out the Civic Center's it's not a big building. It's a pretty good size. Probably 600-700. But then you have a little foyer and then outdoors, and then there's like a 4-lane road with 2 lanes on each side with a median in between. And they fought out the doors, down the steps. Now the whole crowd goes with them. And they're actually blocking traffic on Center Street. And these guys are standing out I remember that just plain as day. And they're just punching each other out on the road. And that's kind of East Tennessee wrestling for you. I mean, it was always a juice fest. Somebody was going to bleed, and somebody was going to bleed buckets.
So you had family. You were from Virginia, but you had family that lived in Tennessee.
Yeah, it's all within 7 or 8 miles of each other. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Bristol's actually in 2 cities or two states. Right. My neighbor's backyard was in Bristol, Virginia, and Bristol, Tennessee.
Yeah. So when I would go from Clarksville, I would go out 40, take 81, go up 81, and then come down to 77.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, we would go through Bristol, but
right.
So you were in Virginia, but you had folks and family that lived in Tennessee.
Well, I've got folks all over as far. I've got family that live up toward Wise. I mean, Mom was one of 13 and Dad was one of 15.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean that is back in those days when they farmed, it was free labor.
You don't have any family that live up in Hopewell, Virginia, do you?
No, sir. I don't have anybody that goes that far.
Do you get the joke?
Oh yeah, I've been tempted to take a ride up there a time or two. There's a gentleman there I would love to have a discussion with. Let's say that. I'm old, but I think I got one more in me. I mean, and somebody acts like that, I'm willing to waste it on. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Something's gotten into me the last, 5 years, where it's like it's hard for me to keep my mouth shut sometimes. But
I don't understand.
But you know what? The thing that keeps me calm is my wife, and
right.
I tell you, some people should be glad that I've got my wife, because without my wife and my kids, I'd be a different person.
Oh, like I said, I'm as nice a guy as you want to meet. I really am. And I'm a real live and let live kind of guy. You know, I don't understand this clannish wrestling bullshit, if I can call it that. Well, if you like AEW, you know, they're terrible. Dude, just watch what you watch and leave everybody else alone. It's real simple. If you don't like it, there's 1,000 channels nowadays. I mean, go to Netflix. There's a bunch of junk on there you can watch.
Well, people feel like they can say their opinion without like someone saying something back.
Right. Well, and a lot of it is the anonymity of the. That's a good word for a hillbilly too, by the way.
Boy, ain't it? Is that 3 or 4 syllables? I don't know, man. That's really good.
It might be 4. Shit. Anyway, but everybody feels real safe behind a keyboard. Stuff you wouldn't say to a human being that was standing in front of you, it's real easy to type. And I'm not talking about because of the threat of getting punched or nothing like that. You just wouldn't do it because you know it's rude.
Yeah.
But just because that person's 500 miles away, guess what, asshole? It's still rude.
Yeah.
And especially on the wrestling things, I'll troll some on my page. I love a good argument. I mean, I love to argue with people, and I love to know I'm getting under people's skin.
Is that why that your profile picture is a picture of a blue and white wall with a rake or broom leaning up against it?
It's a broom, and it has been that way. I've been on Facebook 11 years, and that has always been my profile picture. But the reason it started that way is I was a paramedic. I have hauled people from jail, car wrecks. I had a sweet little granny show up with a shotgun to shoot me once. And I never wanted my face on Facebook. You know, even if they got my name, there's a gang of Kevin Carters out there. And I'm pretty distinctive looking too. I mean, I know
when I
ugly Frankie. That means
when I said to you, "Hey, what's your ID or whatever?" You said Kevin Carter. Well, no shit. There's probably 50 Kevin Carters on Skype.
Right. Sorry.
So
that'd be pretty easy though.
Process elimination. You didn't live in Great Britain and you weren't an Indian, so I just said, "All right." I knew you were a hillbilly.
Right, exactly. See, that's all I got to do. But see, everybody here is a hillbilly, so I blend in. Camouflage. But yeah, I mean, and so I did that, and you wouldn't believe, like if I join a new group, you know, like a new Facebook group somewhere, guaranteed if I join a new group the next day, I will have been, my profile picture will have been reviewed by Facebook. I mean, it meets community standards, but somebody complains every time I join a new group or post in a group I don't post in a lot.
Well, isn't that hilarious though? I mean, let's talk about that as we wrap up here. I used to try and keep these interviews to an hour now, but man, this has been amazing. This has been amazing.
I hope it's at least something you can use.
Oh man, I'm gonna use a whole bunch of it. All of it except for the points where I had to stop and get my dog. But
please cut that part out where I fucked that joke up, and probably that part too.
So let's talk about this profile picture, right?
Okay.
It is actually a picture of a broom leaning up against a blue and white wall.
Right.
Right?
100% that's what it is. What do you see, Frankie?
I see a broom leaning up against a
exactly
blue and white wall. That's what I see. However, if one were to glance at that, they may think that it is armpit hair or pubic hair without doing further investigation.
Right. But that's not my fault. That's on the viewer, wouldn't you say?
That is them being a pervert.
Right.
That has nothing to do with you whatsoever.
Exactly. I'm just a broom fanatic.
You got a beautiful picture, very artistic, bright blue on the bottom, broom that's looks like a handmade broom.
It is. You know the deal with those brooms in that blue wall, don't you? That's a very hillbilly thing.
No, tell me.
Okay, my grandmother, both my grandmothers had one of those brooms on their porch. There'll always be on the old people's porch, and either the ceiling or the walls on the porch will be painted that blue. It keeps. Well, my grandmother would have called them boogers. Lord, that sounds hillbilly, don't it? But anyway, ghosts, goblins, they won't mess with that color blue for whatever reason.
Oh, the boogeyman.
The boogeyman, right?
Yeah.
And then fairies and sprites, because these old people went to church every time the door was open, but by God, there was fairies and sprites. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yep.
They can't enter your house if there's something there they have to count. And that broom will be turned upside down with the bristle sticking up, and before the fairy or sprite can enter your house and cause trouble, he has to count those brooms. And if he doesn't get it count those straws, and if he doesn't get them all counted before the sun comes up, he has to go back and start over the next night.
Wow. Never heard that, but that's
it's a welcome to the hills.
Very Appalachian thing there.
Very, very Appalachian. Yeah. And don't take this wrong, but there's a broom on my porch right now. Hey, my grandmother never had fairies or sprites.
Well, I'll also tell you, you have a very Buddy Landale vibe to you.
You think so?
Shit, yeah, dude.
Well, I appreciate that. Buddy was something else. Again, we grew up watching Buddy. I mean, you know, when Buddy couldn't work nowhere else, these promoters around here would hire him. If that makes sense.
Well, I sat in on a High Spots interview with him, and Buddy told these stories, and Buddy was great. And I listened to him that whole time, and he said, "My wife, God love her."
God love her. Yep. That's not a compliment, by the way. If somebody from Appalachia says, "God love you," or "bless your heart," that's not a compliment, and they're not praying for you.
Well, let me tell you, he said it a million times.
That's not a. And I guarantee it was something about her chewing his ass or something after he said God love her.
And the whole time he's sitting there with another woman.
Right. God bless her. Yeah, Buddy's something else. But now I'm scared of my wife. I'll just point blank tell you. My dad, like I said, we grew up hunting, fishing. I'm 11 Bravo. Blah, blah, blah. I've been around guns since before I should have probably been around guns. And I enjoy shooting. I enjoy it as a hobby. I enjoy it as a sport. Well, my wife decided that, that's ridiculous. So I did the only thing a man can do. I took her out and taught her to shoot. That's a mistake. Don't ever do that. It's a terrible idea.
Tell me what happened.
You put a pistol in her hand, and she's, as we'd say up here, hell when she's well. She's not going to miss you. So you have to walk a little quieter. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want to stay on her good side. Nah, she's great. She's fantastic. And like I said, it's nice to have somebody that kind of enjoys some of the same things you do. You know.
So who won the bet of the number of F-bombs?
I think I only did 3.
I think you're right.
I think it's 3, which would put me under 5, right?
Definitely under 5.
Yeah, I think that was the over-under. I don't remember now.
Well,
But
I think you're tremendous, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about the next time.
Okay, if you want to do it the next time, anytime, bud, just hit me up.
Awesome, man.
This is fun.
Good stuff. We'll get into some more wrestling and military and cane racing stuff here next time.
All right. Just let me know when this comes out. Is it just going to be the next one?
So I've got one I'm gonna release like tomorrow, and then I've got another one, and then this one.
Okay, just remind me if you would.
I will. So when I post it, I'll let you know.
I'm so far behind on my podcast, it's terrible.
Yeah, well, I'll tag you in it so you know.
All right, sir. Thank you.
No, man. Thank you. You have a good night. Thank the wife for letting you come and hang out with me.
All right, sir. No problem.
Right.
Enjoy that weather tomorrow.
All right. We'll see you, buddy.
Bye.
All right, Ariel, we are back. I started this thing with Kevin. He had posted something on Facebook, and I commented and said, "Oh man, you've got to come in and tell some stories." He was talking about working at strip clubs, and that's how I ended up getting him on the podcast. So,
wow.
If you see anybody who is like, maybe they're talking about something that you think is important, ask them if they want to be on the podcast. Because after Michael Herrick, we don't have anything lined up.
Oh, I see. Speaking of strip clubs, have you ever eaten at a strip club?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I have too. I mean, I hear stories you don't eat there or whatever, but I had some of the best vegan food in a strip club. And this was in Portland, Oregon. I think it was called Diablo's or something like that. I didn't know they had like the most strip clubs per capita in the United States, more than Las Vegas, apparently. But my friends and I arrived there to Portland just to hang out for the weekend. We were hungry. The first place we went to was a strip club. We saw the menu there. It looked pretty good. We were talking about we were asking about the food with the bartender, and she said, yeah, everything's vegan. The owner is vegan apparently, and tried out some of their food, and it was great. But it was just also a weird thing, just eating at a strip club and having like a salad or something, some sort of vegetarian vegan dish over there. What do you usually get at a strip club? Wings? I don't know.
Well, the only time I've been in one that served any kind of food was at a place called The Junction, and I believe the other one was called Country Corral. Mm-hmm. So they were next door to each other. And this is Fort Eustis, Virginia, Newport News in 1996-7. And one served food, the other didn't, but it was all the same building. So the Country Corral was where you could get the food, and it was just weird to see dancers dancing while you ate food, and the food was good.
Yeah.
The Junction would have 50-cent drafts.
Wow, that's cool.
And horrible looking waitresses. I mean, horrible looking dancers.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why it's 50-cent drafts, because you get drunk and it doesn't matter anymore how they look like. That's why. The club I went to was unique because they told me it was the only one that accepted $2 bills. So when we exchanged our money, they gave us a stack of $2 bills to give to the dancers. And then
really?
Yeah. And then at the end of the night, we're like, wait a minute. This is pretty much double what we're paying. Usually give them $1, and then we're like, damn, we got ripped off. But no, it was pretty cool having just a stack of $2 bills, crisp $2 bills to hand out. So after the night, we just kept our $2 bills and we used them to spend for our food and whatnot over there in Portland. People were tripping out like we're paying $2 bills. I'm sorry?
That's hilarious you say that, because Kevin Carter tells us a story about $2 bills in our conversation.
Oh, really? Okay. Got to check that one out.
Yeah. So I did have one other pet peeve with food that I thought I would share with you. It is, I cannot stand it when you have a dish like pad thai and you get shrimp added to it, and they give it to you with the tails on the shrimp. Cannot stand that.
Okay. Is it because you don't want to work to get the meat off the tail, or what?
Well, if you're eating a dish and you're eating it with a fork or chopsticks or whatever, you shouldn't have to touch the food with your hands. Okay. So you shouldn't have to pull off the tails. That's just my 2 cents on it. And Brother Shippers, you can weigh in. But for me, I do not want to reach down into my bowl with my fingers and have to pull off a tail. You shouldn't have to. If they're serving you a bowl of pad thai, then you should, or if it was a salad, right? Like you got a shrimp Caesar salad, you shouldn't have to pull the tails off of those things.
See, that's the thing where people would just bite the exposed meat part and leave the tail as is. Yeah, I know you're wasting meat.
Well, then you're spitting it out. Yeah.
Well, I mean, depending how good you are with the chopstick or the fork, yeah, that's true. But for me, yeah, I understand that. Plus, I like to get all the meat off of the shrimp. You know,
yeah, man. You get your money's worth.
Exactly. So that technique of pulling the shrimp, keeping the whole tail intact, the meat from the tail and everything like that. I love doing, but I understand your explanation when you're eating food with utensils and you don't want to put your hands in the food. And
because I know where my hands have been, brother.
Oh man, I don't want to know, brother.
No. I won't tell you, brother.
Another pet peeve I have is well, I'm kind of guilty of it, but taking pictures of like copious amount of pictures of food before I eat.
So you piss yourself off, basically?
No pictures, like taking pictures.
Yeah.
And well, I don't piss myself off because I'm the one that's doing it. I'm gonna eat it. But when I see like in a public place, well, for instance, I do in public. I mean, in private at home, that's fine. But when I see someone do like a whole photo shoot with their food in public, where they stand up to get the right angle of like the overhead shot of entire spread of food, and the food's just getting cold, it's just sitting there and they're just trying to take multiple pictures for the Instagram or whatever, that kind of annoys me. To that point of taking pictures annoys me. Fine, take a shot or two of your food, upload it to social media, it's fine. But yeah, once you start making a photo shoot out of it and posing the food plate in different ways and taking pictures in different angles and lighting, then it gets annoying.
Well, I only take pictures of my food if I'm sharing it with the Brother Shippers.
Right, yeah.
So if anybody looks at me and like, what are you taking pictures of this food for? And I say, well, number one, because it's beautiful. Number two, because it's mine. I want to remember it. And number three is because I'm sharing it with the Brother Shippers. So mind your own damn business.
Yeah, that's fine. But once I start seeing them start doing a production out of it,
then it's over. Huh?
Then it's over for me. I'm like really, you don't really need to do all of that. Take your picture and eat and start eating. I don't take the most glamorous pictures of my food. I just take like the same angle or the same front shot, maybe an overhead shot if it looks good or whatever, and that's it. And I upload it. I don't do this whole production and with all these crazy filters and different angles and different lighting techniques. I don't make a production out of it, and I don't like seeing that in public. In private, fine, do whatever you want in the comfort of your own home. But once you're outside and you're doing all of that, and I'm seeing it, I get kind of like, like, just eat and leave. So they can wait on another person that's waiting for your table or something.
Yeah, so you don't take selfies with your food?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No.
Well, you know, one place you could take some selfies is June the 4th at the Fan Fest at the Residence Inn by Marriott, Tampa Suncoast Parkway at North Point Village in Lutz, Florida, where you can see Demolition, Axe and Smash, also known as the Mass Superstar Crusher Khrushchev, among other things. Bill Eadie, Barry Darsow will throw their shoot names out there. You'll have a intimate 2-hour dinner with a question and answer session with those guys. You also can have Cup of Coffee with the Legend, which is a 1 hour with Medusa. You may know her as Alundra Blaze. And then the after party, you're not going to believe this, but Blood Runs Cold, as WCW Superstar Glacier will be appearing in full costume for photo ops. And he will be doing a after party discussion on his time with Dusty Rhodes. And you can get all that with the purchase of the Ultra ticket, which I see there are still some available, which is over 5 hours of stories and question and answer sessions. Plus, you get your selfie, your item signed, whatever you want. If you don't have an item, you can buy them from the stars there, or you can bring something for them to sign. And anywho, that is June the 4th. And other names appearing are Steve Kern, who was also Skinner in the WWF, Bob Roop, who was also Maha Singh with Kevin Sullivan's Army of Darkness, Leilani Kai, and Bill Fonzie, Alfonso, and The Saint. So we talked about it a bunch last night with Michael Herrick, but he feels so strongly that everyone should go. There's a lot of ticket options if the Ultra ticket's not for you, but it's what I recommend. Go for the Ultra ticket, get the full experience out of it. It's $189, and you'll have a full day of some good stuff. And in between those sessions there, you'll get to hang out with the Brother Shippers.
Absolutely. That sounds like a solid lineup. As we've mentioned before, it's not really okay. The biggest stars are the Brother Shippers, according to everyone that has been there. It's the camaraderie with the Brother Shippers. It's the shenanigans that entail afterwards or during. It's just a big happy family that happens to have a bunch of legendary wrestlers there too. But
that's true.
I would love to go. I always say this. I would love to go and shoot the shit, as they say, as the kids say, with everybody there. And yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. This upcoming one sounds like a solid lineup, and yeah, it's pretty awesome.
All right. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much, Ariel. I'm going to let you get running with your errands and your whatnots. Thank you for coming and doing this with me and being my partner in crime, allegedly.
Allegedly of crime.
And I hope everyone enjoyed Kevin Carter. Next week, come back for Michael Herrick, one of the first guys at the Fan Fest that I talked to. And you'll hear a 2-hour conversation, which is a little longer than we try and go, but there was 3 of us on there. And everybody had to get their shit in, right?
Mm-hmm. Especially the Hollywood kid.
Oh, boy.
No, I'm just kidding. I love you, dude.
Love you, man. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And thank you for subscribing and all the downloads. We love you, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.